Paisley Underground is really, truthfully, the fuck you, Joe Nolte Underground.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
A podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy.
And here's the conclusion of our talk with Joe Nolte.
So Greg Shaw decides that he wants to release your upcoming debut album, LA Explosion, at this point?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, he's talking about that. He's got great plans. He doesn't have necessarily the ability to put up the money to get any of that stuff done.
Oh, okay.
But his first thing, he wants to take over. He wants to repress the single that we've done, and he wants repress and distribute it.
Ah,
and I said, great. So we gave him all the rest of the singles that we hadn't sold, and waited for the imminent repressing. And 6 months later, we're still waiting. So he wasn't even able to get that happening quite yet.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's the thing. Yeah. As a businessman, he was an amazing writer. But it's and having, I think any of us who have ventured into business, once we ourselves have tried it, will tend to have sympathy for Greg because
yeah.
A, it's not easy, and B, if you're starting out in the record business, for lack of a better term, there might be a tiny bit of the mob mentality about the record business, especially in the 70s.
Yeah.
People would do their best to sort of make sure you got so far, no farther.
Wow.
So, nowadays, what's a record? So
right.
Back then the records were still something. We ended up getting, just to move forward quickly, after The Mask has its heyday, we make our debut at The Mask. That was Freddie. After Greg gives us a record deal, and then Fast Freddie says, "Yeah, I'm gonna do an article on you guys in Backdoor Man." Oh my God! And
nice.
Then Brendan says, "Can you guys play in January 7th?" And wow, yeah. So we got a gig, an article, and a record contract.
Wow.
In the space of less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
All of which have made me the successful guy I am today. So January is January 7th of 78. We played with the Avengers, the Dills, and F Word.
Wow.
God, if I'm missing anybody, I'll be really sad. But so we ended up just playing actually a month or so ago in Long Beach with the current version of the Dills. Which was kind of it was a good crowd, and I made sure that everybody was aware. Yeah, this is how it began.
Yeah.
But the last I heard, Penelope was back with the Avengers.
Huh.
Which that would be exciting to many people. That would be exciting to Red Cross. Early Red Cross. The boys are still in their relatively young teens and not yet driving.
Yeah.
And Jeff and Steve get into a fight on stage because Steve got beer on Jeff's Penelope button.
Oh.
Very Red Cross moment.
Yes.
But so there's a lot of stuff I can't talk. What happened? Everything happened. We more and more little clubs started to open up in 78, and we didn't have our own amplifiers even. So we were our sound would depend on whose amps we were borrowing for the night. We would have to borrow from one of the other bands.
Oh, wow.
And somehow we struggled through, got a manager by late 78 who actually was able to talk Greg Shaw into, to trying the idea of doing an album. And we started yeah, we went in the studio in February of 79. And by May, I think we were done. There's not a 12-string guitar on the album.
Wait a minute.
At least electric.
Wow.
On LA Explosion.
It sounds
all those 12-string lines you hear.
Yeah.
Right.
Those were double-tracked 6-string.
Oh,
I'd play the track and then I'd play it an octave higher.
Listen to me, baby, I got something on my mind. Should have told you long ago, I guess I was too blind. Please come closer, don't tell me it's too late, 'cause it looks like I'm in love with you. I wanna dance with you and I wanna hold you tight. Every hour of the day, girl, I want you by my side. I'll be true till the day I die, so say you love me too. This kind of feeling would always descend on somebody else, and now it's got me too. I don't know what to do. How can I explain the way I feel today? Tell me what to say to make you believe in my hour of need. I'm feeling blue, I can only turn to you. But before you say a word, there's something you should know. If you don't feel a thing for me and wanna tell me so, just walk away and I'll understand, 'cause I'd rather see you breathe inside with me. This kind of feeling would always descend on somebody else, and now it's got me too. I don't know what to do. How can I explain the way I feel today? Tell me what to say to make you believe in my hour of need. I'm feeling blue, I can only turn to you. But before you say a word, it's something you should know. If you don't feel a thing for me and wanna tell me so, just walk away and I'll understand, 'cause I'd rather see you breathe inside with me. Oh, I'd rather see you breathe inside with me. Oh, I'd rather see you breathe inside with me.
Oh, my mic here,
Yep.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I think that was John Jones from the Urinals. I think that was I borrowed his 6-string Rickenbacker. Now, shortly after we finished the album, we played. Our manager played Every Summer Day for a guy from BMI who wrote us a check just based on that song. It took us 10 years to pay it off, but we were able to get equipment. I was able to get a guitar, and I got a 12-string Rickenbacker, so that by the time we started playing in the fall of 79, I had what it sounded like I'd played, even though, no, I had not.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even my guitar.
Wow.
I may have used an acoustic 12 at parts, but not an electric.
Wow. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, we did LA Explosion. We had an in with this guy named John Harrison, who was the first bassist for Hawkwind before disappearing. But he was working at this studio in West LA, and while we were recording, and basically he was a staff engineer, so he wanted to try his hand at producing, and so we were doing him a favor by giving him a record that he could produce, and in exchange, he was letting us use the studio, which is the only way we could have done it because it was an expensive studio. So we would wait. We would start recording at about midnight and go till the sun came up. Then I'd go off to work, which, you could do that when you're young and have body parts at work and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, how I made it home, I don't know. But anyway, so we would do that. At the same time, we had to vacate the studio for a couple of weeks while Jon Stewart did an album. Our room downstairs, Zappa was doing the second Joe's Garage.
What?
We actually got to sneak in and see some of Zappa's the stuff he'd written for his orchestra or whatever. And at a brand new building that just been built next door, Fleetwood Mac was working on whatever they were working on in '79.
Wow.
Fleetwood Mac had wanted to actually rent out all the rooms for their album, and Village Recorders, Village said, no, it would be cheaper for you guys to build your own studio, adjacent to us, and then you've got a self-enclosed, room all to yourself, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they did that, and that was an amazing room too. We would sneak in there.
Wow.
And, I remember one thing. They had something called a video recorder,
Oh.
a Betamax. It was like you could see films on a television.
Wow.
It was. I'd never seen anything like. Well, no, I'd heard of them, but it was the first time I'd ever seen one. Was at the Fleetwood Mac auxiliary studio. But yes, we're little schlubs from the South Bay, but here we are, kind of almost fraternizing with the much more rich and famous. But anyway, we were able to get the album done, and the album did whatever it did. And we did one or two gigs, and a couple of reasonable ones and a couple of crappy ones, and then we started doing good ones. And for a few months anyway, we were at the top of everything in LA.
Yeah.
We were headlining everywhere, and we were big, and it was exciting. And then as the 80s dawned, because, 79, everybody was listening to everything, Pop people were going to punk shows and verse Visa, it's just like there was a lot of stuff going on. And what happens, of course, is that in the 1980s, you start seeing more of the punk rock violence, which drives everybody who is not interested in spending their evening beating up people and being beaten up, scurrying for slightly safer quarters. And so that's really one way to screw up a scene. And it's regrettable that I probably know some of the people who were instigating that, but oh well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, when I ended up having to leave. I was sort of forcibly ejected from my mom's house and ended up squatting at this abandoned Baptist church, along with most of Black Flag and a few other people. And I know the movie The Decline. There's that scene where they're interviewing Black Flag in this like graffiti-strewn, sort of like basement.
Right.
That was my bedroom.
Oh,
that was my bedroom.
Oh,
I was standing behind the camera actually when a lot of the Dukowski interview was being filmed.
Why don't you cut your hair like that?
Why? Because I'm searching.
Because you're what?
Because I'm searching.
He knows where it's. He knows where it's at now. And,
I'm looking for something.
and where it's at is to search. He's tried. So far, he's tried punk rock. He's tried Jesus.
No, I'm
Harvey
trying,
Kirshner.
I'm trying them all.
What are you searching
No.
for?
I really don't know. No, I'll know when I find it. I did this because I felt like to set myself aside and make myself different. Maybe it would just come to me.
What is it?
No, that's not it. Shit.
That was pretty funny.
Wow.
But at the time we were the ones. It's like Black Flag was trying to get gigs. The other bands were just barely getting started. But we were stars. And then I'd wake up the next morning and go flip burgers. But we somehow stay at what happened? Too much happened. It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What did we do? We made a follow-up album
Yes.
that could not get released, never got released.
So that's Look Again. We're talking about Look Again at this point. We're talking about Look Again
Look
at this
Again.
point. And so you said that just before Greg Shaw passed, there was talks about actually formally releasing Look Again?
Yeah, the only thing that would have had to be done, we need to bake the tape. It was there's like a process where you get one shot at it, but there's this process called baking, which you basically restore briefly a tape long enough to transfer it digitally to save the contents of it. That has to be done because of the wonderful way they were making tapes in 1980. But yeah, we were all, everybody was into it. Greg was into it. You know, we all wanted the people that the 15 or so people that own copyright percentages of my songs were into it. So it was going to happen, but it needed Greg.
Wow. So you guys recorded this, and you were on the top of the world after LA Explosion. What was the difficulty in getting it released?
There's a book there somewhere. There's a book in there. Yeah, you've told us half of it, Joe. What do you? Yeah. Oh, let's see. Oh. The album sounded like crap.
Oh.
I knew there was a reason. There are different people. Some people are going to say it's the best sounding album in the world. Others will say, well, the material rises above the production. One anonymously said in print in the LA Times, their self-produced album really set them back. But basically what happened, we made a deal with an untried producer who had a new studio, and he would produce Look Again. And this time, because Vitus had felt that I had been dominating LA Explosion, so I wanted to be nice, so I said, Vitus, you do the production. So I ended up locking myself in a room with my brother Mike and just drinking and stuff just to force myself to stay away because I wanted to be in there producing. I said, no, it's Vitus's turn. Unfortunately, Vitus, as I found out later, wasn't given, he wasn't going to push. If somebody was, somebody whose studio it was telling him no, he would just accept that. He was basically dominated by this guy who paid no attention to his suggestions and did exactly what he wanted. Had it been me, had I been in there, it might have been a little more violent, but it would have been... But anyway, yeah, the guy did Look Again. All the labels passed. He did, the drummer for 2020 had just left. He did a solo album for the drummer, financed by Columbia. On the basis of what he did, Columbia dropped the drummer. And he did another project. He did an early version of the first Oingo Boingo single. But anyway, everything he was doing at the time was like poison, and ours was no exception. It's too bad because I believe that we had an opportunity to re-record given to us by none other than Columbia, and our management thought it was better to stick to our guns and say, no, this is the album. We want it this way. And okay, suckers, boom, album doesn't come out. So 1980, we basically spent 1980 not playing live, which is partly why we missed being in Decline, because we weren't playing live, and Black Flag was asking us, come on, you guys should do a show with us. They're doing a movie, and but our personal powers that be at the time said, nope, you're not playing. We did get to play with X at the Starwood in April. They did allow that, which was nice because I got to meet they had a guest on keyboard, Ray Manzarek.
Wow.
And so I got to meet Ray Manzarek backstage at the Starwood, and he said, yeah, if there's ever anything I can do, you guys are great. If there's ever anything I can do for you. Never took him up on it.
I got a couple ideas.
What could Ray Manzarek have... done for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a bucket full of regrets, and it's a big bucket. But anyway, that was really cool. That was meeting Manzarek was cool. That was right up there. A couple decades later, I got to meet Fast Freddie. Introduced me to Lenny Kaye at CBGB's.
Wow.
Yeah,
that
was just like historic. That's all I said was, I said, do you realize you coined the term punk rock? This is CBGB's.
Wow.
And truthfully, the term punk for a type of, like if you want to, I mean, the terms punk and grunge were being used in a musical context before the Nuggets album, but
Yeah.
that's there's no way to really prove that. So, does it exist? Did it happen? Whatever. But, sorry. Anyway, that was pretty cool. But, there were a few shining moments in 1980. I think, my brother Mike finally leaves at the end. He's fed up, and it's like he's going to quit or we're going to ask him to go. I think I ended up being made to be the bad guy to ask him to go. As I've told him since, because he, returned to the band, but as I've told him many times since, that letting him go was a good decision. The only thing wrong is that I should have gone with him. The last was about to just go downhill. We lost our drummer. I was yelling at him at the Hong Kong Cafe late in 1979 just to get him focused and get him to, really, good and angry to get some good drumming. And his parents were there, and he got really upset and quit, which is really too bad. But we got a different drummer for the Look Again album. But there's just fundamental production techniques that, you kind of want to have there, to make something sound good that just weren't really there.
Mm-hmm.
Bass is one of them. That's, it was kind of sad in retrospect, but didn't some people swear by the records? So, you get used to it, I guess. But, so Look Again, became, we pressed up 1,000 copies as private vinyl discs, and that was our demo. What a great little trick. And those are the only copies that officially ever existed.
was nothing that they could do. Nothing has changed and I still love you. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh,
oh. So, what are you gonna do? But that's the first failure is typically like taking a brick from the bottom of the edifice in question. The whole thing is going to start tumbling. One of the few high moments I was in out of that some sort of, I think it was a Black Flag show in the Valley, and this young kid with a Beatle haircut comes up to me and says, yeah, hi, we're really big fans. And, yeah, we're starting our own band. We want to sound just like you guys. Wow. And I forgot about that. And then a few months later, I read about this new single by some band called the Salvation Army, who the LA Weekly says sounds like a cross between The Last and Black Sabbath.
Wow.
And so I said, I got to hear that. And that turns out to be that same guy. It was Mike Quartio.
Wow.
So that was, so yeah, I've known Mike since either 80 or 81. Good Lord. And I see him like almost weekly these days. So we're both in San Pedro now. Funnily enough, how everything all comes back together. But
so you're neighbors now. So
yeah, we're yeah.
So we heard a story that Susanna Hoffs wanted to join the Last.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned Mike left the band, so we needed a new singer, and let's see, what should you not do if you're like trying people out? I know, don't take all your biggest fans and put them through hell and disappoint them at the end, making eternal enemies of them. That's what you don't do.
Yeah.
I learned that, but not in a good way. Anyway, yeah. So we were going to get a fifth member. We didn't bother stipulating that we were looking for a particular vocal type to match Mike's vocals, so that we could have the harmonies that I already had worked out. And that playing guitar was kind of secondary at best. So yeah. Oh my God. One morning, somebody's left a bottle of whiskey at my mom's porch with a note. And it's, I still got that note.
Wow.
And what's great is it's typewritten, so there's no proof. But Susanna Haas had gotten her brother John actually had shot some film of us in spring of 1980 that he had come down and showed on a couple of occasions. So his sister was a Last band, and she had just finished with college and had moved back to the LA area, and she made her brother drive her down to my mom's house early one morning, and they put a bottle of whiskey for me, along with a fan note, basically saying, you guys are the best thing that happened in LA in years, and blah, blah, blah. So, that's so nice. So naturally, I soon, it was a fan letter from a girl. Obviously I was going to have to meet her. And, one wonders, I had a steady girlfriend at the time, and I've often wondered what might have happened under other circumstances. Because, who knows? But it wasn't going to happen. It couldn't have happened. It just would have been Star is Born.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not sure if it would have been the Janet Gaynor or Judy Garland, but it wouldn't have been the damn 76 one. But it would. I don't know. I wouldn't have come out well at the end, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah. Susanna, of course, hears that we want a fifth member. She wants to try out. Sends word through her boyfriend at the time, Dave Roback, and we say, no, we're not going to have any girls. And there were two reasons. And one is, of course, there's still the the mythology of being a Beatle. You know, this is oh, actually, John Lennon has just been shot at this point, but
wow.
But yeah, there's still the idea of wanting to be just like the Beatles and stuff. And now we get Susanna will just be the Mamas and the Papas, and they weren't as big. But mainly it's like we needed, I needed a Mike-ish voice. I needed a voice, in a certain range, so I couldn't do it. And so she decides, okay, I'm going to go start my own band. I think she did. Didn't she ever start a band? Yeah, anyway, so Susanna. So Dave Robeck also decides to try out.
Oh, wow.
And he brings a 12-string. He's like, got everything, but his voice is too low.
Oh.
It's not, his voice isn't high enough. It's not the right range for the mic harmonies, which is a shame. And I'm not sure. I think Vidu said, let me tell him, afterwards. And I'm not sure what he said, but Dave hasn't really actually talked to me since then.
Oh, he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of grudges. I've held lifelong grudges myself, but he's good. Steve Wynn. Oh yeah. Oh, anyway, yeah. So Dave Robeck, for everybody who hears your broadcast knows.
Yes.
But obviously, Dave said, I'm going to start my own band. Boom, Marine Parade. Steve Wynn really wants to be in the band. He can't do the mic thing either. It's unfortunate because I felt so bad because he was so excited about possibly joining, and it's just like, it's like, no, I can't, anyway, terrible. But so, okay, fine, I'll start my own band. Boom, Dream Syndicate. I was at a thing recently, a sort of private show, but I ended up, I'm in the audience, and on stage is Steve Wynn playing acoustically. And he goes into a 5-minute story about how he unsuccessfully tried out for the Last.
And you're in the audience.
And I'm in the front row. He's looking at me, and I'm seriously, I'm literally cringing and trying to cover my face. It's like, This is like a couple of months ago.
Wow.
Like very recent.
Wow.
But in good there wasn't any maliciousness.
Right.
And B, even if there was, I had it coming. More power to him. I'd like nothing more actually than to get Susanna, Steve, and Dave together and just have a 4-part harmony. Just to do it and never. I know, wouldn't that be cool?
That would be very
good luck,
very
though.
cool.
I saw Susanna backstage briefly when we played with the Bengals a couple of years ago at the Whiskey.
Oh, that's right.
And naively thinking, oh boy, it's going to be such fun, and we're old friends. And right away she had that deer in the headlights look like, how can I get this guy out of here?
Oh.
And she was extremely nice, pleasant, wonderful, but it was like clear that I was making her very uncomfortable. So I got out quickly and stayed in my own dressing room the rest of the night.
I have a feeling that that's not particularly you. I've had that same experience, and I've heard that experience from others too. So it may not be you.
With her?
Yes. So.
But she wasn't like that in 1980.
It might
you think people have changed since 1980?
Possibly.
Man, that's the problem. You don't see somebody for a long time, and it's like, oh, okay, really? I thought it was just me.
I've heard that experience from others, so it may not be you. It may not.
Well, and also, and the thing is, if you actually get to the point where you quote unquote make it, it's a mixed blessing because you get, if you get. The more fans you get, fan is short for fanatic, and you get with the fans come stalkers.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if you get some degree of publicity, you have to start watching your back.
Right. You're right. You get huge, and then
and
you
I
have
can
people.
Understand.
You have people sending you emails wanting you to be on their podcast.
Yeah,
and all kinds of crazy stuff. So.
Oh God, can you imagine? No. Oh, you mean like they'd want you to like sit down for an hour plus phone conversation?
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
the heathens! Who would do such a thing? I'm shocked. I tell you.
the scum of the earth. The
Like
scum of the earth.
you'd have to for that to work. You would need to find somebody who is such a ham and so egotistically full of himself that he was happy to talk about himself for hours.
If only such an individual existed.
Yes, if only. Oh, and here we are.
So Joe, I have to tell you about my first exposure to The Last. I didn't know about The Last when the LA Explosion album came out. I didn't hear about you guys until 1983 when the Radio Tokyo Tapes album came out. And you guys had the song on there, It Had to Be You. That was my first exposure. Then I went back and started looking for the other stuff.
It had to be you, your lips are parted. It had to be you to lead my heart into this maze. I should have run, I couldn't get away. I fell for you too, so don't feel proud, girl. I fell for you too, and you were allowed to lay your claim on me. And now I know I'll never more be free. I just had to know what it felt like. I had to be sure it was true. Is this love? Is that what it feels like? Why did it have to be you? Why did it have to be you? I heard about you, everyone had a story. I heard about you and all your glorious misdeeds. I should have run, but I did not believe. It had to be you, you know it, darling. It had to be you to lead my heart right to this maze. And now I know I'll never get away. I just had to know what it felt like. I had to be sure it was true. Oh, is this love? Is that what it feels like? Why did it have to be you? Then one day I heard a rumor making its way to me that someone had run out on someone else's dream. It had to be you, you know it, darling. It had to be you to hurt me so completely I would cry. You know I very, very nearly died. I just had to know what it felt like. I had to be sure it was true. Now I know how bad it can hurt, but why did it have to be you? 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 Why did it have to be you?
So did you work with Ethan James on that track to get that onto the Radio Tokyo Tapes compilation?
Yeah. Okay, we were going to have to set a limit on dead guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about.
Yes.
No, that's just not like. But yeah, no. These days, it's like these days. The nice thing is though that as I'm in my 60s, so it's like when people I know die, it's more like I'll probably see them sooner than I would have otherwise.
Oh.
Right?
You're right.
So it's like, yeah. Anybody got any messages? I should be going that way, and a couple myself. So. Yeah, that's not even grim, which is kind of frightening.
Well, we need you to stick around for a while, at least till we can do part 2 of the interview.
Well, I want to live to be 90, and B, I want to get reincarnated. I want to come right back. I want to see what happens next. I just have to figure out a way to get all my databases. I'm like working to transcribe all the regional R&B charts from the 50s that Cashbox published into some kind of database conglomerate. It's my current that's what I'm going to be doing later tonight. But anyway,
wow.
So I got to figure out a way to will my future self that stuff. And I'll probably get reincarnated as a mouse.
A danger mouse.
Ethan James, one of the original members of Blue Cheer.
Yes, exactly.
My God, he had some stories. But yeah, Ethan recorded Ethan had just opened a studio, and we were going to record the follow-up to the unreleasable Look Again, part of which ended up coming out on the French-only Painting Smiles album.
Right, on Lolita.
Which I think was 84. Huh?
That came out on
on the Eva/Lolita label. So we recorded that album at Ethan's. And I became pretty good friends with Ethan, actually, at the time, and ended up going in. Well, yeah, actually, we did a few different things. There were some Harvey Kuberdeck things. One of which included me and Susanna Haas and Drew Steele from the Surf Punks.
Wow.
Who I'd gone to high school with, and like about 10 other people all playing at the same time. Some strange cacophony that actually made it on a vinyl. Yeah, it's funny. So me and Susanna were like sitting together, and she kept doing a Taxman riff, and I kept doing a James Bond. Lord knows.
Wow.
It seemed to make sense at the time, but we were doing that. I did. Ethan had his own project called Jane Bond. I think the Bangles actually did some guest vocals for that, and I did guitar for that. I did guitar for a couple of other things. I did some session work for Ethan as well. And then It Had to Be You came out in a couple of different compilations, as a matter of fact. And that was an attempt to actually get back to form, which means it was kind of like, let's do a rip-off of She Don't Know Why That Won't Be As Good, which is kind of what,
Yeah.
We've done worse, we've done better, but it was, kind of like, maybe I was trying to write my own Tiny Dancer, who knows. But that was fun, yeah. So I was at Lyceum Studios a lot during the early 80s.
So that was the Radio Tokyo Studios or the Lyceum Studio?
Oh, wait a minute. Am I confusing? Radio Tokyo Studios.
Okay.
Lyceum was ours. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I've become a doddering old feeble-minded dolt.
Well,
kill me now. Oh, my goodness.
I'm very curious about the SST years, too, with you guys signing to SST, because you ended up releasing 3 records on SST, Confession, Awakening, and my favorite record, Gin and Innuendos. Which is interesting, because how did you get a copy? I don't think any got out on the street ever. Oh, really?
It was Greg, my old dear friend Greg Ginn, and I got into a little bit of an altercation over finances for Awakening, which was, I thought, unfair because I had nothing to do with the finances. But what are you gonna do? But somebody else came in working, so I didn't deal with Greg directly for the Gin and Innuendos. But the Gin and Innuendos album, they had a fixed budget, and they said, we're going to, we've got Earl Mankey. I said, okay, that sounds great, I'm an old Sparks fan. I got lots of questions to ask the guy.
Yeah.
And Gin and Innuendos took several years to do because Earl said, I really like this, but there's no budget. He said, so it's like, if you needed to get it out, that's fine. He said, but if you want to, I'd be happy to work longer on it if, we can stretch it out so I can do the paying projects in between. And I said, sure, that sounds good. So it didn't come out for a few years. And then I think there had been a couple of management turnovers at SST. And by the time it did come out, I think there was bad feeling to the point that when I went to get some records on consignment from SST, the guy said, yep, I've got copies of all your albums here. I said, no, what about Gin and Innuendos? No, that's not SST. And I had to go march over because I could see the box where the CDs were. I had to march over and point them out to the person.
Wow.
They were not, SST was not marketing that album or selling the album.
Interesting.
So congratulations. You're one of 50 people who have heard this album in the entire world.
So I actually bought my copy at the Warehouse record store in Temecula when there was a Warehouse record store. I walked in and they actually had it on display. And there hadn't been a last record in 7 years at that point. And I walked into the Warehouse and there's a little tiny display with Gin and Innuendos. Had no idea it was coming out, and there it was.
See, and you know what's going through my mind that whole time? You're saying that?
What's that?
Temecula? How to get to Temecula?
Right. So
how did it get to Temecula?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. The only time I saw it, it was like a year after its release, and it was already a cutout for $1.99 at a tower.
Oh.
And I thought, oh great, they just punched holes in the damn thing and just but who knows? Obviously, somebody had a beef with me, maybe more than one person, which would not be the first or the last time. But Gin didn't do well, which is too bad because it was a very strong labor of love, and we threw in all the best stuff we could, more songs than we should have. One of my the second or third song I wrote back in '76. No. That was sorry, different album. But no, there's a thing called Song/Unordinary Substance, which is song actually was written. I wrote the music to somebody else's lyrics back in '75. And Unordinary Substance was my brother Mike's lyrics, which I wrote the music to in '77.
Listen to a song while sitting here alone, wishing and hoping to live that song for my life now in the silent air, where no one can hear, I sing my lonely words with no need to fear, for I'm truly alone. Not a movie I see, a little life portrayed. I listen instinctively and a little bit afraid. For love can also be lonely. Tie up that boy you see, he's ripping fantasy, conquering remedies, conquering ecstasy. He's talking you organically, judging from the wretched day. He's made you believe. You said you love to hurt you, you know his bottom and you know his top side and you know his inside. You got him in your soul, you got him in his soul, living out his strength out. He's out to control. There's nothing to subdue you, 'cause an
So that's kind of one of the older tracks. But and of course we had my sister-in-law Christy Callan singing backup vocals.
Yeah, she sang on a couple songs, right? Or The Time Is Gone.
She did The Time Is Gone and then the Time Is Gone reprise.
Yeah. Wow. So then after Gin and Innuendos, you didn't put up anything out until the 2013 album Danger, which is the rhythm section from The Descendants and all, right? How did that come about? Mm-hmm. How did Danger come about?
Yeah. I try to put one album out every 15 or 20 years, whether I need to or not. You know?
Yeah.
It's just a habit. What had happened? We'd we'd kind of sort of like clambered along, shuffled along somehow in the wake of the failed Look Again, the failed Look Again album, and the fiasco of getting the whole point of the Roback Win Susanna everybody thing was that each of these, they, as I said, all these people formed their own bands. The only person who wasn't mad at me was, Michael Quarcio, because he already had a band. But basically, it's like the Paisley Underground. I mean, in a way, I'm,
You're responsible for it.
Yeah. Now, I remember this one author who should have known better and didn't was saying, the Unclaimed, they started the whole 60s thing. And I think I told Shelley Gans about that later, and we both had a good laugh because, of course, the Unclaimed were as much indebted to us as the Paisley bands. But and that's just a matter of whichever 60s geek gets born first, gets to be the founder. That's all it is. But basically, the Paisley Underground, I'm responsible for in a really bad way, and I really almost think that because if you'll notice, there's a lot of, we were never in that circuit. We kind of were at the beginning a little bit, and we had some of the bands on one of our own compilations, the Wharf Rat Tales, and stuff, but they kind of made a point to exist without the last. And if you'll notice in all the sort of the resurgence of Paisley stuff, we don't get invited to those parties because the Paisley Underground is as much now as far as bad language, what's off the table?
Nothing's off the table.
Nothing.
Okay, the Paisley Underground is really, truthfully, the fuck you, Joe Nolte Underground. They came into existence just to get me, and it worked. And we'll give, and I've spent many a sleepless night saying it should have been me. I could have been a contender. I'm Norman Maines. I got to have more cliches floating around here somewhere, but I can't think of them. But which again is totally justifiable. But it's like it's sort of unfortunate to have one's own idiocy tossed back in one's face so clearly and publicly and so successfully for one's foes. But there you go. But on the other hand, I was extremely proud, of course, that they were able to turn that into a scene. But truthfully, what was happening with the last was that we were Vitus, I had unleashed a monster because now he wanted to not only play, but now he wanted to, have, creative, like big creative input. And his ideas had nothing to do with anything the last was supposed to be about, from my point of view, So it's kind of like somebody was talking about interviewing Eno and Brian Ferry in Roxy Music at one point, and Eno was like just talking very animatedly about future projects, and Brian was just sitting there glum. And of course, Eno's the one who ends up leaving Roxy a month later, I think. But it's like, when it was a pretty stark dichotomy as far as musical direction, and so it was murder. And I stuck around during those years in the mid '80s. Yeah, about the time that you discovered us. I was miserable in the last. I stuck around, and Vetus and I remain friends to this day, of course. But, at the time, we wanted to do exceedingly different things. And I was now in a band. I was Brian Wilson confronting Mike Love during the Smile sessions.
Wow.
And we know how that ended. The more I have difficulty watching documentaries and stuff about that because it is so damn familiar. It's like basically I was in a band that did not have my back. And that's the other thing. Lesson number 1, don't alienate your fan base. Lesson number 2 is don't stick in a toxic band situation. If you're supposed to be the creative force, if you can't be with people who don't want to do what you're doing. And I only stuck our band. Anyway, I was about to start casting blame and thought, no, I'm going to be talking to some of these people. But seriously, it was just creative differences. I stuck around because I was damned if I was going to let somebody else, have control of the last, because it was my thing. I created it to do my music and to do a specific type of music. And even though we'd taken different directions at times, I was damned if I was going to let it go. It was my thing. And so I stuck it out, and eventually Vitus ended up leaving. And unfortunately, so did the rest of the band.
Yeah.
I spent 1986 where the last was basically an idea inside of my head and nothing else. And then in 87, I reformed the band, and that's when we got the SST lineup, who did the Confession album, then the Awakening album, and then the long delayed. I was going to school too. I was going to Cal State Long Beach in the early 90s, so that didn't help things. So I'm like living in the South Bay, going to the depths of Long Beach to go to school, and then going up to Thousand Oaks to record.
Wow.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of cassette tapes in those days.
Oh.
So we did the SST albums. The first album, Confession, got into the CMJ Top 10 immediately, and got out of the CMJ Top 10 almost as quick. And that was the last time we did any charting action. But SST stuck with us for those the second and third albums. After which the writing was on the wall. Went through interesting things during the 90s. Complete member changes, and we ended up doing the two stockages, which is the Descendants festivals they had in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
In 2002, 2003. 2002, there was this cute bass player playing with a band called Five Star Crush. And she was trying to hide her name tag because I'd actually conversed with her online, and she had talked about seeing the last and say she was, underwhelmed or whatever, or talking to somebody else about that. Anyway, you got to be careful when you tell me that you were underwhelmed by the last, because I don't take that for an answer. Anyway, so I ended up marrying her, and she's in the band.
Yeah.
That's how I get fans. I do what it takes. And I wonder if she may be able to hear what I'm saying right now. I don't know. But she also just got to play bass with the Violent Femmes in San Diego about a month ago.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they have a song, Gone Daddy Gone. Brian Ritchie can't play bass because he's got to do that crazy xylophone thing.
Oh, okay.
So they have to get somebody else to do bass, and typically it'll be a roadie or whatever. But anyway, she was able to actually do that.
Wow.
And she may have been. I know. Carl Alvarez, when he found out, was so jealous.
I bet.
Brian Ritchie's rig.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously my brother Dave and I, no. Bill was already attending school with him, but in '78, I met Black Flag the same night I met Bill Stevenson when he was 15, so I've known Bill most of our lives.
Wow.
And, Bill invited us out to do the stockage shows. And, it was like I was having a short-lived resurgence of the last, and things happened that kind of made it difficult. But I think actually my wife Lisa came up with the idea.
To record a new
album. Who came up with the idea? I could sit here trying to figure it out, and we can just have blank, empty space on the recording. No, that would be bad, Joe. It was, anyway, what if, something that I tossed around about, what if we got, because I had my brother Mike, not much else for, the last, by the early aughts. And, rhythm section. What if Bill and Carl would be interested? Wow. Bill and Carl were very interested. We didn't have a lot of time, but somehow we were able to gouge out a month in, I think, the very end of 2004. And we did a tiny bit of recording out here in Redondo to finish it off in early 2005. But in a month, basically, we did the the Danger album.
Wow.
They run together. Yeah. But it's just basically I called Bill and said, and just proposed the idea, and he went for it. And then, so the album's ready to go. So Bill takes it to all these hip labels that owe their very existence to bands such as ourselves.
Right.
Meaning Last Descendants, etc. The responses is uniform. Man, aren't those guys like 50?
Oh, no.
That was a uniform response. Fear of age. Now, I when I was young was one of the most ageist people I know. But if the 80s taught us anything, it was that young people could be even more boring than old people.
Yep.
I would never have thought that in the 70s, but the 80s, after that, all bets were off. But it's like nobody wanted the old, doddering geriatrics to be pretending to be punk rock. But anyway, so that didn't happen, which is too bad because these days I have to be helped onto stages because I can't really negotiate stairs too well. God, what's it going to be like? Wondering what's going to be like in 10 years.
Yeah.
They'll be wheeling me on. I can't wait. I might be phoning in my vocals. I'll be like HR. But hey, we made it. We made it to anyway. Yeah. We finally got after this. Oh, we had a little hiatus in the aughts after Bill's initial unsuccessful forays because Bill had about 3 near-death experiences.
Oh.
Which he had. I can't remember, but he, oh God. But yeah, no, it's actually kind of shocking he's alive. But that's been kind of well documented elsewhere, and I wish I could think of exactly the nature of them. All I know is I had 2 strokes myself. Right. The second of which I wasn't supposed to survive, which was funny because I was lying in a hospital bed, unable to move at all, but perfectly lucid. So I've got this crowd of neurosurgeons around me taking notes and asking questions, and I'm just rattling on. Oh yeah, this is go. You know what? One thing I remember is my eyes had gone from horizontal to vertical.
Oh,
so left eye was on top of the right eye instead of
Wow.
I mean, it was like better than acid, man. I'd never. Yeah, I didn't think such things were possible. I'm so describing all these weird things going on. I can, it'd been in fairly cohesive, comprehensive detail, but somebody says, "Could you just move ever so slightly so we can help?" And I would look at them and say, "No, I cannot move." Actually, it took me 6 months to relearn how to walk.
Wow.
And it's entertaining to watch me walk to this day. But hell, I walk and I drive. After I was thoroughly tested. Just by the by, the freeways are still as safe as they ever have been. Yeah, you find that funny. But yeah, and all I know is I went through that stuff, and I remember Bill trumps me. So I don't know about the details, but anyway, yeah. So we've all had some problems, but anyway, after that delay, we approached a label called N Sounds, who were delighted to put the record out, which is how we finally got why do I keep doing that? How we finally got Danger out.
Yeah.
And I think I was pleased with the record, but I'm not calling from a mansion, so whatever was supposed to happen didn't work.
I bought a copy.
Although actually, when I first got into the music business, you could still make money at it.
Yeah.
I'm selling records, which I guess you can't do anymore.
Well, that
I had to walk a mile to school in the snow too. But
well, it certainly begs the question for me, like, what's next? You get the last still shows up at shows every once in a while.
Well, when did LA Explosion come out? 79.
79.
Backwards. Why? It's the 40th anniversary of LA Explosion. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, so we're doing. We were going to do more of it. Stuff got in the way, but we're at least going to have a. LA Explosion came out August 15th, which is a Thursday this year. I will be at home, not doing anything. But I think on like August 17th, 18th, we're going to do a show. I think at Alex's Bar.
Oh wow!
With hopefully some special guest stars. Not sure who. I found out a lot of my old friends have agents and guarantees, and I realized, well, we're not going to have that many old friends, and I need to get an agent.
Yeah.
But anyway, what happened? I had Mike on keyboard for years, and it's like keyboards got in the way of his singing, and his singing got in the way of the keyboards. It was just a mess. It's like I got lucky for the whiskey show at the Bangles. My brother David only agreed to do the show if he could bring his son in.
Oh.
On second guitar. And why not? His son turned out to be really good. His son is now our keyboard player.
Nice.
James Joseph Nolte. And it's great because he's a Nolte and he looks like Vitus. He looks like a cross between David and Vitus. So it's like having two original band members in one.
Nice.
And my brother Mike, I believe, is still in the band. We'll find out by August. And so James can do some singing, and he does amazing keyboards. For the first time, we've been able to do songs like "Fool Like You" and "The Rack" and "Objections," which and "This Kind of Feeling," most of which we attempted once in '79 and said, let's do something that sounds good. But anyway, the idea, one of the things that's going to happen is at this celebration, we will be playing the entire LA Explosion album.
Wow.
Nice.
From start to finish.
So the lineup for that show will be yourself, Mike?
Okay, it's me, hopefully my brother Mike, my nephew James Nolte on keyboards and vocals, my wife Lisa on bass, we have a second guitarist, Philo, and our drummer is Paul Rucker, who is actually from Colorado and formerly with Drag the River, so another Descendants connection, and also an amazing drummer. And yeah, that's been the lineup for about a year now.
Right.
And I felt pretty strongly that it was like arguably the best lineup I've had to work with. And I've had that confirmed by other people who've seen us. And unfortunately, that matters about as much as saying you're writing new songs, because when you get to a certain age, you're an oldies band. And there's nothing you're going to do about it.
Mm.
People want to hear the stuff that made you famous. They don't care what you're writing now.
Right.
And it's like if you want to be kind to people and let them have a bathroom break, say, yeah, we're going to do some of the new album.
Oh.
Thank you. I needed a cigarette.
Oh.
That's just how it is. There's nothing you can do about it. It's, but and it may. But the thing is, what am I looking for if I'm going to go see some ancient band? I'm not looking. I don't care what they're doing now. I want to hear the hits. But anyway, which is not to say we're not. I mean, I'm basically the future of the Last is going to continue as long as I can do it.
Great.
Yeah, I have no. When I was much younger, I thought I'd be dead by now, and
here we are.
That didn't happen, so here we are. What the hell? So I'm going to keep going.
Great.
And I have no plans on stopping. And insofar as we have the opportunity to make more records, I'm going to do more recording. It's just a matter of in what form. Making a record is sort of an archaic term nowadays, anyway. And we're certainly going to keep playing because there are people who seem to enjoy it for some ungodly reason. So after you guys all die off, then we'll stop. But I've got a really good lineup, so I'm really, really pleased, and
excellent.
I'm hoping to do more shows. I want to do the album in its entirety more than once. I don't want to have it just a single show. So we've been rehearsing nothing but pretty much for the past few months.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we share a studio with Mike Quercio, so he might have even heard some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Small world.
Yes. Well, that's great news. I'm really glad that we'll be able to hear the whole album in full again. So that'll be the 40th anniversary show. Al's Bar, so I'll be looking for that.
No, Alex's Bar.
Al's Bar is gone.
Alex's Bar in Long Beach, yeah. Yeah, in August, I want to say August 17th or 18th.
Excellent. We'll be there.
I could nail it.
I will be there.
Nice.
Perfect.
It's going to be at least, there's going to be at least some good surprise guests. I'm just either unconfirmed or can't talk about them yet.
Okay.
But it should be fun.
Excellent. Oh, I can't wait. Soraya, you going to join me for the show?
Oh, well, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am. Are you kidding? Now he's dangled this carrot in front of me.
Yes.
I get to hear the whole thing, start to finish. It's a kick-ass lineup and possible guests. Heck yeah, I'm going to be there.
Yes.
Nice.
Well, we're at 2 hours now, Joe, so I
Are you
wanted to...
kidding me? Wow. Actually, 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Yeah. But
You guys called it 6:58. Wow. That's insane. But still, that's 1 hour less than the Jim Brennan thing that never got out of 76. So.
Well, we got a lot of information from you, and I really
my
appreciate everything. I think we might have to ask you back later and get some more information about like the SST years. I'd like to hear about
I want to ask about the Lolita release. So, Joe, would you be open to coming back and talking with us again?
You've got to be. Why would you, after going through this, why would you want me? No, I would be delighted, of course.
Are you kidding? We want to delve into that brain. We want more.
Yes.
Nice.
All right. Well, for this one, we better call it, 'cause 2 hours will be enough.
Kidding. Sorry about that.
No. Perfect.
Cool.
We got some great stuff.
As far as the Long Beach gig, I hope we don't suck.
No, I guarantee that won't happen. That's probably an impossibility.
We both saw you at the Whiskey. I mean, this was kick ass. Sorry.
Wow.
We saw you. We know. We know
Nice.
what we're in for.
Nice.
Mm.
Well, very cool.
All right, Joe.
But, anyway, I'm serious. I mean, The ham part's real enough, but a lot of it is I just want to, I want to get the stories out there for, posterity.
Yes.
In all seriousness. So I'm just delighted to be able to have opportunities to share it.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm totally into whatever.
Perfect.
Okay.
We're so glad that you took time to talk to us and coming back again. And we look forward to diving into more.
Going deeper.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so
My pleasure.
Yeah, we'll let you get started on your weekend now.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Thanks.
Thanks again. Have a good night.
Sure, you too. See you later.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Soraya?
Just give me a moment.
So have we been calling this Paisley Underground scene the wrong title all this time?
Yeah, I think we need to change the podcast to the FU Joe Nolte Underground podcast. Let me just share with you. Okay, so I always take notes when we talk with people. I covered at one point I just put the pencil down because I was not listening and I was taking notes. But I have at least 30 pages of notes.
Yep, same here.
Oh my heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, number 1, 2 key lessons. Wait, I wrote it down like 3 times. Don't alienate your fan base and don't stick around with a toxic fan.
Yep, those are...
And the Paisley Underground is the FU Joe Nolte Underground. That has to be the quote of the year.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes, agreed.
Woo, mama.
Obviously, the bands that we have talked to have referenced The Last multiple times.
Yeah.
Last time being at the Grammy event, I took note that you mentioned that even at that event, The Last came up.
Oh yeah.
So
That's why I find it really weird that he would say, "Oh, this is the FU Joe Nolte," when they all were like dying to get in, and he just said, "No, voice is wrong.
yeah,
Voice is wrong."
yeah,
And I can appreciate the fact that he had a sound that he wanted to replicate.
yeah, absolutely.
But man, I'm like, I don't know about you, but I'm tired, and I didn't say a word.
right.
I didn't say a word. Joe Nolte is absolutely, look, this guy is he's a walking musical history.
Yep, yeah.
It literally, he is an oral historian of the LA music scene.
Absolutely. And there from the get-go.
I can't believe all of it. I can't believe all the stuff that he walked us through, and he was just scratching the surface.
Yep. Yeah. So we are definitely going to have him back and dig deeper.
Oh my gosh.
Because there was some stuff in there that I really wanted to get into in the SST era, and
yeah,
he had mentioned that we could interrupt them if we ever wanted to. I did not want to because the stories were so good.
I mean, it's like, I knew, for everyone listening, Jeff, there's usually a draft. And so, we have a guide of where we're going, but the stories were so engaging. Like I didn't want to get him off of what he was telling us to take him in another direction.
Right.
And it was really interesting because at some point, all the stories connected with the ideas or some of the things we wanted to ask about. And so it was really interesting that switch, especially back and forth between, the talking about the SST era and then moving forward.
Right.
There is so much here. I'm so glad he'll agree to talk with us again because, for those of you who are fans of The Last, there is so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So much to talk about with him and all the iterations of the band and, all these albums that, some get released, some don't, some get marketed, some don't. But still, The Last is this continuous influence on an LA music scene. And, look at how he talked about, a kid with a Beatle haircut. Of course, he was talking about Michael Curcio.
Right, right.
And look at the moments of the points of contact with the bands that are at the foundation of the Paisley Underground. But, we can keep talking about other bands where the last is also, a point of connection too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Whew.
We didn't even talk about like the whole punk scene, like with
Exactly.
with all the Black Flag and Descendants and all those bands.
Like, I want to know more about him squatting in a church with Black Flag members. And you can only imagine who else is in there.
Right, right.
And the comings and goings, like, to shows and what's being played. Oh my gosh. But you know what I also find really, really interesting? I mean, there's a lot to reflect on here and a lot to digest.
Mm-hmm.
Is this constant going back? And he said something that I thought was so interesting. It's this constant going back to this late 60s rock, pop sort of moment.
Mm-hmm.
He said, in reality, what we were doing, or like, at that moment where he's discovering punk, he says, what I found was that our band could have a strong 60s melody against a minimalist backing, like some of the bands that he was starting to admire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a really powerful thought, because when you think about it, there's a lot of truth there about how punk starts to evolve. Way back in the dinosaur ages, I remember someone saying, punk is really just 3 chords. And, they were being kind of glib about it. But if you listen to a lot of punk, it is that minimalist backing, but it's everything else that goes on top of it.
Right, yeah.
That really just like, it'll blow your eardrums out. And really pushed music into a whole other moment, into a whole other development.
Yeah, yeah.
Whew.
It was
There's
great.
so much.
Yeah,
so much.
Right. It was so great how he was laying out those stories, and then how it all culminated with that. To me, it was an aha moment when I think back on the sound of specifically LA Explosion, and him talking about pulling, well, he said a 60s motif or pastiche, and with that punk influence also, and then it all just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes into the conversation, right? 40 minutes into the conversation, and then it all culminates with that. Like, that's what it took to make this sound.
Right.
That was so cool. All right, Soraya.
Oh my gosh. And side note, production note, we need to make a band called The Flies.
Yes.
You didn't do it. We're going to have to steal it.
Yeah. That could be our F.U. Joe Nolte. Our new podcast is called The Flies from here on out.
The Flies. F.U. Joe Nolte movement. There you go.
No, he's great.
Right.
Yeah, he's great.
Gente, hallelujah.
Groove on, Paisley people. F.U. Joe Nolte.
His name is Joe Nolte from the band The Last. Come on, Joe.